has also promoted gang meetings and grown and amplified the gang's message and reach, or as he says in his own words, putting this apeshit worldwide. Releasing the defendant from custody risks considerable danger to the community, and any suggestion by the defense that the defendant is either not a member of Gorilla Stone or that he's merely just merely a musician or an ambassador, it's simply not persuasive when the defense claims that. As we noted in our submission, the defendant's a full-fledged, unquestioned leader of the gang. This isn't about rap lyrics or promoting a musical career or marketing or promoting his music. It's about clear and reliable evidence of his gang leadership. As initial matter, the grand jury, of course, returned the indictment charging the defendant in a racketeering conspiracy count. And in the defendant's own words, in a November 2019 radio interview with Nick Cannon, the defendant made clear that he is, quote-unquote, still Ape, that is, a member of Gorilla Stone. And beyond the defendant's public admissions, what he says in private messages powerfully show his prominent role in the gang. In a September 2019 text message, for example, he bragged, "I'm under Dick Wolf, the godfather of all apes." Couldn't be clearer. He's under the founder and leader of Gorilla Stone, his co-defendant, Dwight Reed. Take another example. In an August 2020 text message, he actively promotes Gorilla Stone meetings, calling them mandatory. And he warns members, if they don't show up, they will be wiped down. He requests that members pay dues to his co-defendant and friend, Walter Luster, also known as Shell. And in another example, in a December 2019 text message, he tells Dwight Reed's wife, the wife of the head honcho, "I ain't playing, sis. I'm putting this ape shit map worldwide." That is, he's serious. He's promoting and growing the reach of the violent gang. Second, there's the overwhelming weight of the evidence, which was strong the day he was indicted, some of which I just recapped and is further set forth in our written submissions, and is only getting stronger as seized devices from co-defendants, such as Chrysler, have been downloaded, inspected, and reviewed. Similarly unpersuasive is the defense suggestion along the lines that the defendant's Instagram is not his real life, that his public persona is an embellished work of fiction, that he only pretends to be violent on social media and in public, that this is all some sort of act and giant work of fiction. As we note in our submissions, the overwhelming, reliable evidence demonstrates that in private communications and on photos on his private iCloud, this defendant is a narcotic supplier and dealer. He possesses an array of weapons, and as Luster told Reed during a recorded prison visit, he even accidentally fired his gun during a poker game in New York City and always had a gun on him. That is, it's not just a bunch of hype. It's not a bunch of puffing and posturing and trying to seem cool on social media, which we know from the violent incidents. We also know it's not a bunch of puffing and posturing because when the defendant and his co-defendant don't think anyone is looking or listening, such as in their private meetings, photos, texts, and calls, there is rampant evidence of guns, drugs, and violence centrally involving this defendant. A third statutory factor is, of course, the history and characteristics of the defendant. It's worth noting he's a career offender with a very violent history.
A participant has joined the conference.
The charged conduct is all the more disturbing given the extensive criminal history and the fact that he engaged in this conduct while on pretrial release for yet another violent felony in New York State. Little need be said about the criminal history. He has 6 criminal convictions, including 3 separate first-degree robbery convictions for 3 gunpoint robberies. 2 of these convictions are for forcible theft armed with a deadly weapon, and the third is for the use or the threatened use of a dangerous instrument. 2 of these convictions resulted in concurrent 6-year jail sentences, and the third, a YO offense, resulted in a term of 1 to 3 years imprisonment. And in public interviews describing these prior gunpoint robberies, the defendant has admitted that he oftentimes was the person carrying the gun and threatening innocent store owners, and he wasn't some mere bystander in these incidents. Moreover, there's the pending second-degree robbery charge in New York State for a 4th violent felony for which he's been on pretrial release and for which his co-defendant in that case pled guilty and was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. That's the case in the diner, where the defendant triggered a violent attack on a female victim, seemingly because the defendant suspected her of filming him on her cell phone, resulting in Senior lunging at the victim to snatch the phone, and Senior's underling doing the dirty work of violently choking her out in the melee. Now, for his part, the defense concedes the violence of the prior gunpoint robbery convictions, but argues that these were long ago and the defendant is a new man today than he was back then. And that may be so, Your Honor, but in response, we respectfully note that the recent conduct is every bit as bad, including the defendant leading and supplying a narcotics distribution operation, possessing firearms, and leading a gang wherein he instigated multiple violent incidents that we discussed, including the strip club shooting. In that shooting in October of 2020, victims were airlifted to a hospital, and just because the defendant is now close to the very top of the enterprise and had more junior members pull the trigger and choke out the victim, this does not absolve him of responsibility. Far from it. In short, the only thing the passage of time from his 3 prior first-degree convictions has established is that the defendant has moved up from the more junior role as muscle to a leadership role, where he has his underling do the dirty work on his and the gang's behalf. The fourth statutory factor is the nature and seriousness of the danger, and I won't further beat the dead horse. I think that's been covered above in describing the conduct. With regards to flight risk, Your Honor, the government doesn't press this ground as hard as the palpable danger argument, but we do agree with pretrial services. The defendant is a risk of flight. The charges carry a significant mandatory minimum and a statutory maximum sentence of life. The defendant isn't safety valve eligible, and those penalties, coupled with the strong evidence, create every incentive for him to flee and not serve the lengthy sentence that he faces. And ultimately, notwithstanding the self-surrender in this case, the defendant's conduct in the moments after he learned that the FBI was looking for him, whereby he dropped his phone, made his way from Atlanta to New York and several states in between, and somehow evaded detection and apprehension by the FBI, who was looking for him during a nearly 2-day period, shows both an ability to skillfully evade law enforcement detection and the willingness to do so, at least for a period of time. In short, Your Honor, the defendant has not rebutted the presumption in favor of detention, and in the end, as pretrial services has recommended, the defendant...
I see, they want each other to win. They all helping each other. Yeah. So when you get in that circle of hooligans, it's a dog-eat-dog world. Nigga trying to rob you after you catch a robbery.
Right.
You know, nigga, like, it's too scary for me, but lately I've been happy because I've been in the right circumference.
Yeah, now that's real. And it seems like you're having a good time. But even, you know, I still see the stuff, the trolls online and stuff. I see your new pose. You got to tell me. Like, I keep seeing the gorillas and the apes every time you move. What's this movement about?
Oh, nah, you know, regular blood shit. You know what I'm saying?
So you ain't leave that alone.
Nah, I ain't leaving my apes alone, man.
Yeah.
I just separated myself. That's
right.
it. But you know, that's who I am. That's what kept me how I kept, you know, in jail. And that's what before jail, that was me. So I ain't gonna just get rich and switch.
Yeah.
They over there, I'm over here, but I'm still ape though.
You still an ape. And that's the thing, I mean, because they even like I was reading up and they was like, oh, well, you know, we're kings. We can't be considered apes, and we're not monkeys and all that stuff. Like, what do you say when cats when the too woke try to start speaking to you?
Nah, I feel like
See, I'm still a street nigga. I'm still a gangster.
Yeah, the gorillas is to me is the king of the jungle to me. You know what I'm saying? And that's the closest thing to men. I don't know what they talking about. I don't want to be a monkey. I'm an ape, man. I'm a gorilla. But I don't really